hearings this evening. We have one bid to award, and we will call on City Administrator Andrew Bremseth to walk us through the awarding of a contract for Public Improvement 5372.
Thank you, Your Honor. Council members, filling in for Brian this evening on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. The bid will have a typo there. Bids were open for our annual seal coat improvement project, this year referred to as Public Improvement 5372. 3 bids were received at the bid opening. Asphalt Preservation Company, APC out of Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, was the low bidder with their total bid amount of $257,847.18. The engineer's estimate for the project was $278,597, so about $20,750 under engineer's estimate, so pretty good bids. You can see in the memo the bid tabulation and how the breakdown is. The bid amount of $257,000, 5% construction contingency, $38,000 for design and administration costs with soft costs involved. We're looking at a total project cost of just over $310,000. Funding sources for the $310,000 project, $173,100 comes out of the 2024 tax levy. $100,000 is carried over from the 2023 tax levy. We did not have a seal coat project in 2023. We received a check from a contractor for $33,143.42, and then a small portion out of general MSA maintenance dollars. Explaining the contractor funds mentioned there, there was a contractor that was previously awarded work to do a seal coat and some striping on a couple of those streets, which is in the Summit from Burlington to Concord area, including Concord, Riverside, and Peck Street. And what we did was we bid that project as an alternate to the seal coat project. That alternate came in at $33,143.42, and this contractor that was previously scheduled to do the work gave us a check for that amount and completely covered the cost of that bid alternate. So that's what that is referring to there. This 2024 seal coat project is very robust. It's probably the largest one we've ever done. You can see the map in our packet and on the screen here. All of the streets in the dark black are included in the seal coat project. So it covers a really large area. There's a complete list of those on the bid tabulation page in your packet. So yeah, it's going to be a big project. Prices came in good, and if the council wishes to proceed, we need a resolution this evening awarding the construction contract to Asphalt Preservation Company in the amount of $257,847.18, which is the base bid plus the alternate that I talked about.
Thanks, Andrew. We can accomplish this through a resolution.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Scott.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Anthony. Questions for City Administrator? Roll call, please.
Joe? Yes. Kwame?
Yes.
Rupert?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Next, we will move to the open forum portion of the agenda. Anyone wishing to speak to the council pertaining to any item not on the agenda, is welcome to do so at this time. Please step to the lectern and state your name for the record, please.
Good evening. I am Becky Schwartzoff, a resident of the 4th Ward. I am here tonight to talk to you in regard to the March 4th City Council meeting. At the time of the open forum, Al Kramer resigned his seat as a council person. He stated, "Lynn, let the record know I am temporarily stepping down from my 3rd Ward Council seat." Section 2.04 of the City Charter discusses vacancies, among other things noting a vacancy in the council shall be deemed to exist if the council member resigns. It goes on to say, quote, "The council shall, by resolution, declare such a vacancy to exist and shall forthwith appoint an eligible person to fill the same until the next regular municipal election, when the office shall be filled for the unexpired term. I am greatly concerned that Mr. Kranemeyer declared he would reassume his seat. Under the charter, I do not believe that this was a legal process. I have reached out to my ward representatives and the mayor with this concern, and I anticipate this will be addressed through the proper channels. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Anyone else wishing to address council this evening? Hearing no one, we will move along to the consent agenda. Tonight there are 5 items on the consent agenda. We can approve those through a resolution unless someone would like to talk about any of the items individually.
I would offer that resolution, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brent.
One of us.
Roll call, please.
Jones. Yes. Kwame.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Kranemeyer.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Under ordinance and resolutions, there are 3 items for consideration this evening. The first is a first reading of ordinance 57, 8th series, regarding the licensing of tobacco sales in a B2 zones. If anyone has any questions, I'll direct them to either our city administrator or our acting city attorney. But we just need this introduced this evening. Thank you, Anthony. Second item is a second reading of ordinance 55, 8th series, relating to the rezoning of 2008 County Highway 111 from an R1 to an RA zone as requested by Alex and Megan Wando. And before the council, it's had a first reading. If anyone has questions, we will address those at this time. Roll call, please.
Jones. Yes. Kwame.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Kranemeyer.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
That ordinance is approved. We also have the second reading of ordinance 56, 8th series, relating to the rezoning of property located at 801 West Stanton Avenue from an I2 to an R4 zone as requested by the city of Fergus Falls on behalf of Mark and Brenda Christofferson. Note that this is contingent upon the sale of the property. And again, this has been discussed by the council. It's had a first reading. If anyone has any questions, we can address those at this point. Roll call, please.
Jones. Yes. Kwame.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Kranemeyer.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
That ordinance is approved. Tonight we have claims in the amount of $1,779,658.51. If anyone has any questions, we'll direct them to the finance director. Ms. Lonmore? Someone like to offer a resolution?
I'll make that.
Thank you, Brent.
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. Roll call, please.
Jones. Yes. Kwame.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Kranemeyer.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. There are no board, committee, or department reports this evening. Under reports from staff and administrative officers, first we will discuss and review the 2024 Pebble Lake Lifeguard Agreement. And we'll call on Public Works Director Guy Taylor. Good evening, Guy.
Good evening, thank you, Your Honor. The time for renewing the contract with the YMCA for lifeguarding services was at hand, so Pam reached out to the YMCA and they indicated that they were going to be seeking a $35,000 fee for their services this year, up $10,000 from the fee that we've been paying for the last 6 years, I think. Park Board discussed this at their most recent meeting, and they are recommending to the council that we not renew a contract with the YMCA at this time, that we just establish a swim at your own risk policy at Pebble Beach, and then when the splash pad and the pool open up, we'll have those resources reallocated to those facilities. And just keep Pebble Beach a swim at your own risk beach, like many in the county are. So
Thanks, guys.
just open for discussion to see what your wishes are.
So, you mentioned that the contract's been at $25,000 for a number of years, 6 years.
Yeah, it's a number of years, correct.
Is it also, and I understand the YMCA, they have, they have budgets just like we all do, and we know what our budgets have been like, but those hours have been diminishing as well. Is that correct? I mean, the number of lifeguard hours has been reduced during that time.
Yeah, it has been reduced. We're gonna be, the proposal was for 8 weeks of lifeguarding this summer.
And
Down from the-
even the time, they don't start till after noon, is that?
Yeah, 1:30 to 5:30, I believe is what their hours are. 1 to 5:30.
Anxious to hear what others think. I know that when we 6 years ago, 7 years ago, this was important to a number of people and young families when we did reestablish lifeguards at Pebble Beach. So, I guess I would like to. I understand, and they make a good point that next year we won't have the resources to have lifeguards at 2 separate swimming facilities within the city, let alone the staff capability to staff it. I would like to hear from them. I'm wondering if there's families out there, the public, that this is a big deal to them. Like this is the ability for their kids, they feel safe for their kids to swim. I don't know the answer to that question, but anyway, that's some of my thoughts. Scott?
If we break it down, guys, at $156 an hour, is that about what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Are they staffed, like, 7 days a week?
It is 7 days a week,
Okay.
1 to 5:30.
Okay. Thank you.
Is this something, is it something that, if we brought this up and asked the public to weigh in over the next 2 weeks, is there a reason we couldn't act in 2 weeks on the
There's still
contract?
time for that, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the concerns, and I appreciate the recommendation from the park board. I remember what, the families that this was important to them 6 years ago when we did this, and I would hate to just do it in a snap without at least giving some people the time to weigh in on what it means to them and their family and their kids. But that's my thoughts. Yeah.
And then just to reiterate, we have 25,000 in the budget. We do not have 35,000 in the budget for it, so.
So I mean, is there a way that we could just buy $25,000 worth, as opposed to, and start at like 3 o'clock till 5:30, as opposed to 1 o'clock, or we knock off, weekends or something, so that we provide some service, but not everything.
I mean, we do have it in the budget. The budget we
I mean,
passed is
if
to
we've got,
provide
if we only have 25,000 to spend, then that's what we can spend that.
Yeah. Was it a
As
motion
opposed
to
to-
bring it back to the YMCA with a
Yeah.
counter proposal of $25,000?
Yeah, I would make that motion.
Thanks. Second?
Now, we just have lifeguards on at those times, but we are still open all the other times. We just don't have lifeguards on at the other times?
Yeah, it is open, like any city park, it's still open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's swim at your own risk apart from those.
So
hours.
basically, we could take it from like 1 to 5:30 down to like 2 to 5:30 or anything else in order to bring it down? It'd just be a smaller window of having a lifeguard on duty?
Correct.
Second to the motion. Yeah, thanks, Scott. Okay, go ahead. Brent, if you had other questions, or Scott?
I think Anthony's suggestion to reduce the days is probably more practical. I mean, to get someone to work for 3 hours, you might not get anybody interested in such a small job, so to speak. Whereas having it be a substantial enough time to make them show up for the job, but maybe 5 days a week instead of 7 would be a way to suggest to the YMCA, if we can get that for 25,000.
I think, as you say, any play on, balancing the budget and getting coverage. I mean, do we have to have 2 on at the same time? I mean, we go from 0 lifeguards to having 2 lifeguards. So, why don't we have one start at, say, 12 o'clock, and then one runs until, say, 3, and then somebody else comes out all day, cover the day. I think there's more than one way to kind of like figure it out.
I think there's rules for the lifeguarding that come into
For the
play.
lifeguard, for the lifeguard.
Yeah, basically, you gotta be there to give them a break
Yeah.
every so often.
So the motion is, I think, to ask staff to come back with,
Yeah,
just
correct.
reach back out to the YMCA
Sure.
and see if
Come up with
our
an
board or
alternative,
through
yeah,
Pam or.
an alternative to schedule, and if it's more practical for them to do, as you say, Monday through Friday or whatever, then there's a chances are that weekend parents are more available to go down with their kids than a weekday.
Sounds reasonable, so any other questions? All in favor of that motion to ask staff to come back with some further recommendations after further conversations with YMCA, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, Guy.
Thank you.
Next item is a consideration of resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of an air conditioning system at the community arena.
Thank you, Your Honor. When the city purchased the chiller from the school district, and we separated the whole system from serving 2 facilities to just our facility, that took away capabilities to cool our portion of the building. And we found out last summer, when we were operating kids camp and the summer ice programs, that moisture was becoming a problem, and just the overall heat and humidity in the building was pretty uncomfortable. And so to get some air conditioning in the building, we've been working through a few different companies to try to come up with a design and a good price. And we've got a price from Mission Mechanical. It would be $58,000 some dollars to air condition one portion of the building, and then the same amount for another portion of the building. And we're strategically doing it in 2 separate projects to work with the state under their $100,000 limit. So it's 2 projects. One area would cool, or one project would cool the north half of the upper hallway, and the other would cool the south half. So it's 2 areas that are most used in the summer, and then we would look to also do a project that would hook the system back up and utilize the chiller, where these are standalone air handling units. The chiller would actually be rehooked and in a future project chill the lobby areas and the main arena, locker rooms, and potentially the whole south arena. But what's before you, the resolution I'm seeking tonight is just to purchase and install air conditioning for its S4 and S5 areas at the community arena.
Thanks, Guy. Would like to offer?
Let's talk about the funding source a bit first.
Sure.
If you recall, we have the funds that are separate from the arena operating account. We have a separate capital account. It was funds left after we constructed it. That's what we purchased the original chiller from the school with that. So we currently have a cash balance of that fund of just about $416,000, transferring a bit out as we were closing funds for the year of $7,669. So this $112,602 would then bring that down to $295,676. So, we'll want to be working as with future budgets to increase the capital contributions coming back in. It's one of the challenges we'll have moving forward as well. But we'll still have just about $300,000 in, but that's where it would come from. So,
Thanks, Bill.
And from the perspective of maintaining the city asset too, I've been in arenas all over the state, and I've seen arenas that have had unchecked moisture issues, and it's hard.
Yeah, once you get behind that 8 ball, it's hard to recover.
Yeah, and so we need to protect our assets and make sure they're here for future generations to use.
Someone like to offer a resolution, and we can have further discussion?
Oh, I will offer that.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Tom?
I'll second.
Scott? Al?
Just a question. Bill, what was that? Did you say 112? What was that
That was these 2 units, right, Guy, of 56,301?
Oh, right.
So the
Yep.
2 of them, that's.
I was thinking of the 50, okay.
Yep.
I was thinking of the 58, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I misspoke.
Good.
Scott?
So the arena was air conditioned before we took it over, but we lost it last year, is that what they're saying to us?
Yeah, when the chiller was separated out, when the school went on their own system, then we lost air
We
conditioning.
we
for it.
operated without air last year.
We did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I knew we had a lot of trouble with it, I couldn't remember, I didn't know if that was just something that was occurring all the time.
So will these units also be used in the wintertime on a?
Nope, they're just purely air
So
conditioning.
in the winter, because there's different units,
Right.
you know, for kind of like, because you can air condition buildings obviously in the winter too, but.
Yeah, so the heat source is still derived from the school system off their boilers, and then we have air handling units that move that air around and will introduce the fresh air.
Like,
So it's still it's a convoluted system.
And and we have dehumidifiers already up there,
We do.
but that's for use in the wintertime. And
They
summer
also
too?
work in the summer too, yeah.
Okay.
They both run a little bit in the summer. The north rink, now it's running nonstop because of the year-round ice that we have there. But the south rink, that dehumidifier, it's a concrete floor, so concrete floors, they have moisture coming through them year-round.
Thanks, Guy. Any other questions? Yes, Scott?
Bill, I need to understand the funding of them. As far as the 400,000 amount, is that like a standing fund for the maintenance of the building, or what's the definition of that?
So it's a separate special revenue fund, and and actually for the audit purposes, we do combine that with our general fund from accounting standards, but we keep it as a separate fund. It was leftover funds when that project was all paid off. In essence, it was leftover donations to the project. So we kept them segregated out of the operating funds since they were from the project.
But it's essentially dedicated for this facility only.
Yep, it's restricted for the arena because they were originally given for the arena. So we couldn't pull them for the library, so to speak. It has to be on that facility.
Well, it seems like it'd be a very appropriate use of that funding. And then the remaining 300,000, 295,000 would be looking at possibly use for this chiller in the future, or if some other work to be done in the building. That's still specific only to that building.
Correct.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Bill. Any other questions? Resolution on the floor. Roll call, please.
Joe?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Rupert?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Under old non-finished business, we'll have a discussion on the open forum policy that was discussed a couple weeks back. There's a copy of the rules in your packet. Lynn's putting one copy on the screen. There's also a little history with the minutes. And I guess we'll just open up conversation. I'll kick it off. I think we've probably all been thinking about this a little bit in the last 2 weeks. And I think that when we moved last July to the current form of the open forum policy, I mean, the intent was clearly to provide a transparent, open way for the public to communicate with their elected officials. I think we all agree on that. However, I would say that there's been some individuals who've taken advantage of that and have used it for other purposes, and who've used it to make statements to the general public. And I think there's plenty of opportunities and forums for them to do that. That's not what the open forum is for. So I would personally like us to consider a modified version of the way we used to do it. I don't think we need to ask people to register in advance, but I think that in order for people to clearly have an opportunity to address their elected officials in an open way, I think we can most effectively do that if it's outside of the regular scheduled agenda for the council and it's off camera. If anyone has an issue that they need to be on camera when they address, I think they're here for the wrong reasons. This is for people to address the council, not the community. And so, talking with other elected officials and other bodies in the county and the school district, that's the way they do it. They have suggested that, they've had success with that. It's open, if I think the council can consider some sort of listening sessions, if it's just wants to be an open session. But as far as the open forum, I would like to see us consider moving it before the meeting, not having anyone have to register and off camera. I think it also would allow for the public, many members of the public, to be less intimidated, not knowing that they're going to be broadcast, and would be a little more intimidating and encourage more open dialogue. I think also it would encourage, to some of the points of the council, us to be engaged. If it's outside of the official agenda and outside the official meeting, we'll be able to ask some questions, right? We'll be able to engage in a dialogue, which we all feel kind of awkward up here when someone addresses us at a public meeting, asks us what seemingly is a simple question. It's not on the agenda, and it's just a better forum for us to engage with people back and forth. And yeah, and then the last thing I'll say is, under the current open forum, if the council did want to take up an item that was brought forward, we can't do it because the agenda's already set. In this instance, it'd also allow us to be able to take action. If we decided, if there was unanimous consent of the council, we could consider an action. So anyway, those are my thoughts on moving that portion of the meeting outside. I still think we can achieve our intent of having interaction with the public, but I just think we could do it in a way that's maybe not as entertaining to the public, but I think it would be more productive. So I would like to hear what others, I'm sure others have thoughts on this as well.
You're on. Yeah, I agree with that. It was an experiment that was tried, and we had good intentions, and I believe that there's a great likelihood, like we've seen, that gets subverted and used to deliver a message to a larger audience than the actual spirit of the open forum with the council. I thought it worked just fine the way that we did it before. Looking at the packet here, was it April 16th?
It was July of last.
Okay, so this was the original.
June, sorry, June.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with what you said. It doesn't need to be on camera as part of the regular council meeting. That could lend some credibility to whatever claims are made, and it being part of the official record. So I would support. I would make a resolution that we go back to the way it was prior to the most recent change, minus the requirement to register ahead of time, where it's done outside of the meeting, and it's not part of the official meeting, and it's not on camera.
Would it make sense, let me just ask this, would it make sense to just have a simple motion directing staff to bring something back, what that looks like, so we don't get bogged down in any language, and it gives people the opportunity to weigh in on that? So we have a process, and it can,
I'm agreeable to that, so I'll withdraw that resolution and
just a motion.
take a
to
motion
ask
to ask staff to research and come up with options.
Thanks, Tom.
I would second that on the basis that we're going to discuss it this evening, so that staff have input from council.
Absolutely.
So that quite important.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut discussion off on this.
No, that's not my intention.
Absolutely, no.
Okay.
This is intended to be, everyone on this council has the opportunity to weigh in, and staff can come back with.
So I will second it that, staff can take the comments that they had tonight and draft out
Okay. Who's next?
Just a
Al.
question. As far as if there's a statement, I can understand that from somebody. But if there's a question that actually kind of is an end game answer, how would that person get that? If John Doe comes up and asks a question, and it's a viable question.
When's the street gonna be fixed?
Yeah,
in front
when
of
they
the
gonna
house?
fix or when's that stop sign gonna go back up or whatever? Is there an end game to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we can bring that, we can, I think to Anthony, you discussed this last time, but just to have us be able to engage more in that, questions like, hey, staff, where are we at on this? What's the schedule? I think if we're off camera and out of the official meeting, it'll open up the ability for us to feel a little more open to having so, not taking official action, but actually having a, I don't know, a clear way of bringing something back if the council decides to do that.
I think a perfect example is obviously what Becky brought up this evening. She made a kind of a comment and looked for a response. I think that it should be that probably in 2 weeks' time that response is kind of made, or that we publish some sort of statement, that basically covers that question, because obviously in fairness, she asked a question, and I understand we don't necessarily want to respond this evening because we may not have the answer, and we might say something that is not entirely kind of like true. So we need to research it to make sure we do deliver the right answer. But I think somehow we have to have some limit that says, right, we will respond by a certain time, so that anybody that comes and asks a question, they can expect a time period in which the worst case then they'd have to wait for an answer. Because the whole purpose of somebody coming up is to engage us, not. Most are coming up to make a statement. They're looking for an answer on something, regardless of what it is. So I think within the policy, we should have a mechanism that we're going to get back to somebody on, to talk about, to give them an answer.
Good point. I think one thing to consider there is, if that's something that staff, because there is a process, right? Like oftentimes people maybe don't understand the process, but if the staff is able to answer that question the next day or the next week, just for consideration, do we still publicly, we want to make sure that the public understands that we're addressing this, so maybe just a rundown, maybe just a recap.
I still think that we should address it publicly. If we can get an answer to Becky tomorrow, then that behoves us, we should do that, but, for the people that are watching or listening, or in the audience, they may also be interested in the response and the answer. So somehow,
maybe just recap it.
So somehow I think we have to recap it.
Just like this was taken care of. This is so people
This
know
was
that this
taken
is-
care of. Yeah.
And even if it's something that maybe feels bizarre, we can at least address it. That this is how it was. I think that's reasonable. Laura.
I think back to the first town hall meeting that Al had, and there were a lot of questions that were asked there, and the staff did an excellent job on reaching out to everybody with an answer within a couple of days. So I think that we need to kind of follow what we had done on that town hall meeting.
Certainly. Thanks, Laura. Brent?
Now, if we're gonna stick with the discussing of a topic no more than 2 times, then how are we going to handle this in the future so we don't have another person being accused of disrespecting somebody at the podium because we have to stop them because they're bringing up the subject again? I mean, when we got the forms in advance, we knew what they were gonna talk about. I mean, is this something when they come to the podium, they should have to just give a quick clip of what they're gonna discuss before they get into detail on it? I don't know, because otherwise I think we're gonna continue to have the same problem with people bringing up the same topic over and over and over again. And if we still have the 2-time limit on being able to discuss that, how do we go about stopping that before it ends up being you're disrespecting the person at the podium?
Well, I guess my on-the-fly response would be the council should decide if they want to keep with the two-time limit, and if so, then we'll just enforce it. And if they don't, then we'll remove it from the policy, one way or the other, just like, So, and I think that's part we can, if we have this policy brought back to us for consideration in 2 weeks, we leave that in there or we take it out, and then we enforce it.
I would, just my response to Brent is, I think that us enforcing our rules is not a show of disrespect. I think that I don't have any problem with, the way that particular situation was handled. I think, there was a deviation from the rules that we had set, and all of us as council members, I feel like should have the right to speak up when there is a deviation from the rules. So I don't see that being an issue if we call somebody out for not following the rules that we've set forth. I'm inclined to leave that limit in there, just so that we can continue to have fresh, productive discussions versus you don't beat the same dead horse over and over again. And sorry, Scott, I kind of took your spot. I yield my time.
Go ahead, Scott.
I agree with a lot of what's been said here. I think that moving the forum to a period outside of our official council meeting will be better for the business end of what we do. And so I'm in favor of that. But one of the puzzles that the staff may have an answer to when they come back with their recommendations is that with the current format, the comments become a part of our minutes. With it being outside of this format, then to what degree is there minutes or records that can be acted on? As you say, you know, the question was, how do we get back to somebody within the, whatever, 2-week time frame, whatever the time frame is. It becomes its own event or its own meeting then, so to speak. And to have any sort of record of what's been discussed and what kind of commitments might be made as far as a response, if it's not a part of the official meeting, how do we then hold to the format? So I'm puzzled about that, and yet I don't mind the idea of moving it out of the formal meeting. So that will be something that hopefully over the next couple of weeks, I've had a chance to think about this and the staff can bring recommendations. Maybe that can get incorporated into the plan.
I would think we could still have like the recap that Anthony was talking about, but yeah, we'll let staff kind of think through that.
I mean, for me, I don't think it matters that it's in the council meeting. I mean, I think, the goal is to encourage people to talk, and if they feel, I mean, I think if they feel uncomfortable in talking, then, maybe then we can accommodate that. But I mean, I think, if they have a genuine question to ask of the council, then, I'm quite happy for that to be within the realms of the meeting itself. Because I think, as you say, if and I kind of, I don't mind it being on camera. I think it's that gives those people. There's a lot of people that watch the council meetings, so I think if you take it kind of like, I mean, before we used to have it that you could speak, prior at 5:15, we had like an open forum session, and you had to put a piece of paper in that said what you were going to talk about. I think we've made it a lot smoother, a lot easier, that people can come and talk. And I think that's something we still want to encourage people to do, as opposed to making it somewhat restrictive.
I agree. I don't disagree on the point we want to make it less restrictive.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. We don't have to have people. In fact, I would argue, in fact, it makes it almost more open, because some people they just don't want to be part of what the open forum has become. And I just really feel strongly that this is our business meeting to take care of the business of the city that we're elected to do, and people using it for other purposes, hopefully it's a thing of the past. Yeah, Scott.
So I agree with this before meeting. I mean, I think we're 5:15, so I think we should probably look at our staff all the time. But if something comes up during the open forum part, we can put it on the agenda if we want, and then we can, direct staff to do something, or so it's really a simple way to get things done a little quicker. If they come up with a question and we all agree that question should be answered, we can direct staff, make a motion to direct staff to get that answered in a couple weeks or whatever. If it's something, it needs to be addressed.
Good point.
I think that's so I'm all in favor of this moving to 5:15 or 5 o'clock or whatever. And we should also make a requirement that everybody should be here, because it was kind of lax when we were on the council before. It was there'd be 4 or 5 of us here, but not everybody could make it. But I think we should just kind of make it. We should all agree that we'll be here for 5:15 or whatever time it's going to be.
Yep. Go ahead, Scott.
I think that's a very good point, Scott Richards. As far as being able to add something to the agenda, if it comes up ahead of the meeting, then we've got an opportunity then to act on something that can be acted on.
Get a motion.
Turnaround time. I think that's really good. I think one of the other you talked about the intent, what was the intent of the forum, and what are we trying to accomplish by that? And I think a lot of folks are maybe looking for something that we cannot do in the current format, something that's more of a uncontrolled, as Laura was mentioning, the town hall, where any topic, any subject, any length of time is just, come and say whatever you want to say, and get it out there for people here. And that type of a town hall or a listening session or open house, I think there's a place for that, but within the business meeting isn't the proper place for that, in my view. And so maybe we would need to then, beyond this specific question of how this addresses our meetings here, we come up with a separate process for having that kind of meeting, periodically, whether it's here or the library or some other place, something like that. And then it's sort of regularly scheduled, so people can expect it and know how the format works, and it's not random. And frankly, my experience with the previous town halls, I thought they were useful to a degree. But as the fact that they weren't really structured, there weren't any minutes taken, there wasn't any sort of official motions and actions and accountability, they ended up accomplishing very little. It allowed people to just sound off, but for what purpose? It didn't seem to really advance anything in a positive way. And so if we're going to do that kind of thing, maybe we can come up with a way that can be structured that has some measurable value and progress to it.
Thanks, Scott.
That's enough for me.
Thanks, Scott. Andrew, city administrator and I were having that exact conversation today. He had some thoughts on that, so I'm sure you'll bring that back as part of your recommendation.
Sure.
Good. Thanks. Let's open up to the public. If anyone wants to speak to this from the public, you're welcome to do so at this time. Please state your name for the record.
Mark Layton, I don't mean to be so vain, but obviously this is somewhat directed to me. Budget's a big deal. Lake Ellis is a big deal. Region 3 is actually a big deal. If someone brings those up 2 or 3 times, what's going to be? I take offense too that during your business meeting, I think it's the public's business meeting. My second question is, if you want to have it off camera, Mr. Shire, what are you afraid of? What is your concern? This is an open forum for the people to speak to the council on record. Now, if you don't want it on record, is this going to be a town hall meeting in your council chambers? Ooh, can't have that. I think there needs to be some real consideration here, and I appreciate the council bringing it to the attention during the council meeting and not meeting the whole. So, number one, I think it's time for the people to talk to this council. I don't think there should be a limit on 2 or 3 times. And we all know that, 3 minutes gets a little tight. If you're going to discuss water quality at Lake Ellis, if you're going to talk about a roof at Regional Treatment Center, an air conditioner at the arena, there are people out here that want answers. And I appreciate Mr. Hicks in replying to the people. Never had that. Not once. Been involved here for 3-4 years. Never a reply. A criticism, but never a reply. And we can yin-yang about 15 years and 9.5 years. We can yin-yang between population of Minnesota and the population of the cities. How about all the respect? Trying to get the truth out of the people. And the people want to hear it. And a lot of people do watch this. And I'm proud of that. I could go on for another 15 minutes, but I don't want to get past my 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Layton. Anyone else like to address the council?
Bob Noah, Fergus Falls. I didn't plan on speaking at all today, but I appreciate the opportunity. I think this is the best conversation about this subject you've ever had. Just talking about options is really great. Really something to consider. This thing about the Bill of Rights, our First Amendment, is really on the line no matter what stage of government you're at. It doesn't give restrictions on how many times you can talk about things. Maybe I want to talk about things a lot. Who are you or anybody else to say, well, you can't talk about that. See, it's all these restrictions that I'm really against, because it's the free flow of information that builds our communities. So I'm all in favor of all these discussions and the staff and all these things. I wish I would have been more prepared. I could have gave some suggestions, but maybe those, I would like to address Councilman Kwame on what was really accomplished on these town hall meetings. Well, I'll tell you, when people have a voice, there's something that builds inside of you that makes you part of the community, part of your world, and it makes you a better person. And maybe, you know, just 7 or 8 of them, or however many we had, that was just a test run. But that doesn't make town halls a bad thing. So I could, you know, I think it should be maybe 5 minutes. People could talk for 5 minutes. No restrictions on the number of times you bring something. If you can't hear somebody speak 5 minutes and have the grace to hear what they have to say that's on their heart, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Norton. And I anticipate that you will have the opportunity to talk about this as it comes back. I anticipate we'll have a conversation about this and come back. Anyone else wishing to speak to?
I'm Kirby Anderson. I don't live in the city. I'm a proud member of Elizabeth Township, but I'm on the school board, and I just want to discuss how we've handled what we've come to as far as our public open forum meeting guidelines. When I got into school board 6 years ago, we go through our training through Minnesota School Board Association, much like you do through League of Minnesota Cities, and they kind of drill right into us. Your meetings, your school board meetings are to do the business of the school. And they're open to the public, but they're not public meetings. You have public meetings, truth and taxation, you have open forums, you have the franchise tax thing. And so, and you have the option of opening your meetings, and that's what we're talking about tonight. I think the main thing that we try and look at in this, and I'm going to compare and contrast school district versus city. The main thing that we try and do at the school is if someone has a problem with whatever it is with their child, did you talk to the teacher? Okay, did you talk to the principal? If that didn't resolve your issue, did you talk to the superintendent? You can call and email us anytime you want. So it's kind of that chain of command thing. It's like if my electricity goes out, I don't call the president of the company, I call the service line and say, and go up the chain of command. So that's an important thing here, and I see you guys have that same thing. If they have an issue with a stop sign or when a road's going to be done, we talk to the city staff. If that doesn't work, talk to Andrew. If that doesn't work, call or email one of you guys. I see a lot of similarities here. I think what we have done is we have 3-minute limit. We do it after our meeting. We do ask people to register on the Thursday prior to a Monday meeting, and they just put their name, their contact information, and what their topic is. And that's more or less just so we can kind of prepare ourselves for what they want to talk about, if there's any background that we need to look at, background information, and also to try and we try and set it to 15 minutes. So if you get 25 people, each one 3 minutes, then that gets to be too long. We do ours at the end of the council meeting after we adjourn. We don't try and take any action on it that night. It's more of a listening session. If there's something that needs to be taken care of by staff, by teachers, by principals, then we forward that to them. Anybody can come in and talk as long as they're a resident of the district, or if they have a parent, or if they're a parent or a guardian of a student. We do it after the filming is done. We're trying to discourage, there's some people who don't feel comfortable being on camera, and it tends to cut down on grandstanding as well. So that's kind of how we do it. And we went through, every school district kind of modifies what the MSBA has suggested. They have a policy on it. We have our policy. League of Minnesota Cities has a recommended policy. And I don't have a horse in this race. So just sharing what we do, and you guys will come to something collectively as well. So, and I guess I'll just close with maybe one thought. Our job is, we run a $40 to $50 million budget, and so we're doing the school business, and we're not firemen. We're doing the long-term planning. We're planning where kids are going to go to school in 5 to 10 years. We're planning on what we're going to do for the budget the next biennium. We're not concerned with. We have to have our staff take care of the day-to-day things, and I think that you guys have a common concern there too. Let your staff do their job, but at the same time, make sure that you're available by email, by phone, and get back to people. And I think the town halls are a great idea. You may want to take them down to the caucus level type thing when you do them by ward. I know each one of you represents 25% of the city, per councilman in each quarter of the city. So that's something you might want to look at. But like I say, just some similar situation that we have, and that's how we handle it. So.
Thank you, Kirby.
Yep, thank you guys.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this issue? All right, so we have a motion directing staff to take some of the thoughts and concerns for this. You have the direction you need?
Yep.
Okay, so the motion is to have direct staff to come back with a proposal for us to consider at either the next, I suppose we could take it through the committee of the whole, and that gives us a chance to consider it before we approve it on the place. So, okay, is that good? All right, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. There is no new business this evening. Lynn, some announcements. There's a franchise fee open house here in the City Hall Council Chambers Thursday night, March 21st.
Correct, Thursday from 5 to 6:30, and it is a true open house with people coming in with the thought of milling around, talking to the consultants. I don't believe there's going to be a formal presentation, but it's a time to ask questions of the consultants and staff and council members. We'd love to see you there as well.
I just will note, I have to work that evening, so my regrets, but I'm hoping everyone else can make it, and hope there's a good turnout from the public. Any other announcements, Lynn? All right. No other business before the council, we're adjourned.